Hey, what's going on guys? How is everybody doing? In today's video, we'll be going over several of my favorite team comps for Childe. As an AoE carry, Childe may not be able to compete in single target damage over some of the more popular carries like Hu Tao or Razor, but in large groups he'll overperform, and if you like seeing a lot of numbers, well then Childe will light up your screen. A pivotal downfall of Childe, however, is that he actually attacks too quickly, which becomes detrimental to using him on a team with his highest damage reaction, Vaporize. So in looking at this reaction, we'll be thinking of this team a little bit differently. Otherwise, since we would prioritize using Childe in AoE style fights, we'll be looking at teams that perform at their best in AoE situations. A huge benefit to playing Childe, as we'll see in this video, is that most of his best supporting heroes are 4 stars, which makes him a very accessible carry to build for free-to-play players who just happen to snag this Hydro hero. If you're new to Childe and want specifics about his individual build, you can check out my full guide on him. Link will be in the top right and in the description below. We'll be taking a look at what elemental reactions we'll want to make a priority when choosing teammates, the elemental resonances we can take advantage of, and what heroes can help Childe perform to the best of his abilities. We'll be discussing team comps from the best of the best to those easily accessible to free-to-play players. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and hit the notification bell, that way you never miss a video, and don't forget to join our Discord, link will be down in the description below. Now with that out of the way, let's jump right into the video. The first team up to bat is Childe's Vaporize team. Now, I say Childe's team, but it's actually more of a Xiangling team, since she'll be the one proccing all of the Vaporize triggers. I mentioned earlier that one of Childe's downsides is that he actually attacks too quickly for his own good, and that can be seen with this team. Xiangling is currently the best off-field pyro support we have, and even she can't apply pyro fast enough to keep up with Childe's Hydro application. So, because of this, I build my Xiangling a little bit differently than I would a normal supporting Xiangling, opting for less energy recharge and instead building more for crit, attack percent, and elemental mastery. This team is a bit better than our others for single enemy encounters, since Xiangling is capable of doing much more damage to a single target with her Vaporize triggers than Childe is on his own, but that's not to say that Childe is useless. He of course is still a very powerful carry, and with Bennett by his side, his damage will only skyrocket when Bennett's burst is up. Not to mention that Bennett can also proc some massive Vaporize triggers when using his burst. The last slot is actually a flex slot, though I prefer putting Sucrose here, as she can heavily reduce the resistance of either of our enemy's Hydro or Pyro resistances, but she also passes off a ton of elemental mastery to make our Vaporize reactions even more explosive. What I typically like to do as a rotation of sorts is to use Bennett's skill first to apply Pyro, switch to Sucrose to use her skill to proc both Viridescent Venerer and her first passive, switch back to Bennett to get his burst up, then into Xiangling for her burst so that she gets the benefit from Bennett's ult, finally back into Sucrose to re-up her Viridescent Veneer Shred and first passive, then we finally stick the landing with Childe and go to town with a ton of AoE damage, getting a lot of Vaporize triggers from Xiangling's Pyronado. I usually end up just mashing buttons, but hey, if you want a combo to follow, this works just fine. The combo can be made easier by using alternative flex heroes with longer lasting abilities like Zhongli's Shield, Xingqiu's Burst, Albedo's Skill, or any of your favorite supporting heroes' abilities. The core of this team is really Childe and the 2 Pyro heroes. One last thing to mention though is to not be concerned with building Elemental Mastery on Childe. There are some one-shot teams that use Childe and Bennett, and because of the huge attack boost from Bennett's burst, it's actually more effective to build Elemental Mastery on Childe's timepiece as opposed to attack percent. But remember that on those teams we're using Childe's burst to specifically proc Vaporize, whereas on this team, he's actually the aura hero, not the trigger hero. So build an attack percent timepiece for a team comp like this. The next team I think will be a popular one because it trivializes so many fights, especially on the current floor 12 of Abyss. If you're having trouble clearing this floor, this is the team for you. If you've ever wanted to completely lock out enemies and not even allow them to move, Permafreeze is the way to go. With Childe's basic attack while under effect of his skill doing Hydro damage, freezing enemy becomes absolute cake. You could treat one of your cryo heroes as a second flex slot, the other being where I currently have Mona, who we'll talk about in a second. Though I like to prioritize having 2 cryo heroes for the cryo resonance, since Childe doesn't shatter frozen enemies or remove cryo with his reaction like a hero like Razor would. So we can fully benefit from the extra 15% crit rate, which is beneficial as Childe has so many damage instances between his basic attack and Riptide triggers. Now, arguably, you could technically get away with not running a healer since your enemies really won't be able to attack you. But if you want to play it safe and run a healer, Diona or Chi-Chi would be your best bet, as both of these choices can apply cryo over time. If you prefer to have a second, more damage-oriented cryo hero though, your flex slot could become your healer. Either Barbara or Jean would be the best options, as neither of these will have any effect in ruining your freezes. I like having Rosaria as my first cryo choice. Her ability to pass off crit rate to your other heroes will help the fact that we don't have any reaction damage to improve your overall team's DPS, though either Kaya or Ganyu will fit this role perfectly as well. For our flex slot, either Mona or Xingqiu are my go-to top picks. Normally, I prefer Xingqiu, though he's been pulled in a lot of different directions recently, as there are many other teams that I'd want to use him on, so I've been trying out Mona a bit more. Both Xingqiu and Mona will help to increase Childe's damage. Xingqiu provides Hydro-resistant Shred, while Mona on this team can utilize her Omen combo. If you aren't familiar, Mona's burst creates a bubble around enemies which increases the damage dealt to them. In her burst description, there is an Omen duration. However, this timer does not start when the Omen is applied. Instead, it starts when the enemy first takes damage and the bubble is popped, which means that we can keep the bubble up and increase our damage for longer periods of time. Though, you do have to make sure cryo is applied before using Mona's burst, as if you do it the other way around, the damage associated with the cryo application will pop the bubble even though it freezes the enemy. Last up is the most AoE focused team, and that is Childe's Electrocharged comp. Although AoE focused, this comp can actually do quite a number on single large enemies due to the consistent off-field burst damage 3 of our heroes can provide inside of a burst window. Our Electro Core is made up of Fischl and Beidou. Having 2 Electro heroes will help their burst uptime, as the Electro Resonance will create electro particles whenever an electro-based reaction is triggered, even though it'll be accumulated at an off-field rate. With Beidou needing 80 energy to use her burst, this will provide a massive boost to the energy she gathers while Childe is on field doing a majority of the damage. When all cylinders are fired, Beidou and Xingqiu's burst and Oz is on the field, Childe will apply plenty of Hydro so that Electro can spread and even more AoE damage will be discharged amongst your enemies. One thing to keep in mind with this team though is that we don't have a dedicated healer. Xingqiu does his best healer impression, Fischl can heal 20% of her own HP with C4, and Beidou can create a shield with her C1. So is this a risky comp to play in Abyss? Yes, unless you're good mechanically with your dodges or you're just okay with redoing a level multiple times if you take an unfortunate hit. We could switch Xingqiu to Barbara or another healer of your choice such as Ben or Jean, just so long as they don't have an elemental attack that could screw up Electrocharged reactions like Diona or Qiqi. I like Xingqiu for his big burst damage and the fact that he helps amplify Childe's skill damage with his Hydro-resonant Shred. But, like I mentioned in our last team, Xingqiu can spread himself a bit too thin, being good pretty much everywhere else. So treat this as your heavy flex slot, replacing him if you so choose with another support, ideally one that doesn't interfere with your Electrocharged triggers. Any of the Animo heroes will work, another Hydro hero, or Zhongli or Albedo will do the trick. Hopefully you guys have found this team guide useful and it will help you in deciding which heroes to move forward and build. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and hit the notification bell, that way you never miss a video. And don't forget to join our Discord, link will be down in the description below. But guys, that's all I have for today. Hopefully you did enjoy, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.